when I first got into the business, and I found it to be very helpful. You guys see the capital success form on my screen?
Yes.
All right. And so Capital Success is a agency. I can't think of the guy's name right now, but he specializes in helping prospective assisted living owners secure financing. There are so many options out there when it comes to securing the funding for assisted living, but you have to do some homework, right? You have to know where to go, and you have to have your numbers together. And so what we know is that getting involved in the smaller deals, you may be able to bootstrap that. But if you plan to grow to scale, you want to leverage the banks. And so this is just a comprehensive list that he shared, and I'm calling him he. I can't remember this man's name, but that was shared with me early on, that helped me kind of prepare the documents that I needed to go to the bank to secure funding to open an assisted living. So now we're going to get into the budgeting. And when you talk about budgeting for assisted living, again, you've got your marketing costs. I'm sorry, you've got your pre-startup costs, and then you've got your startup costs. So for the purpose of what do we have together? A little under an hour. We are going to start off with the budget. And let me just explain this budget with you. So at the top, of course, goes the name of your assisted living, all that. So right here in the months is where you want to start off. Let's just say, for the sake of today, our year is going to start in September. Funny story, I got my MBA so that I could learn how to work Excel. Most expensive Excel class known to mankind, and I still can't work it. September, October, because November should be there. All right, let's try this again. All right, so just for your information, so that you know, FYI is what I should have said. This is actually a template that the SBA is very familiar with. And so right now, if you're going into assisted living, SBA banks, they like you. A lot of them have worked with assisted living facilities, and we have kind of proven our ability to meet financial goals and to pay our money back, right? So line 3 is number of residents. And so let's see, let's say we're going to get licensed for 8 residents. Say opening month, right? We're probably not going to have any. We're doing renovations month 1, maybe month 2, and then month 3, we're able to move our first residents in. We were smart and we started marketing even before we were able to open. So the first month that we're open, we take off and we move 2 residents in, right? And then let's just say we move a resident in per month. And anybody that's in business knows it really doesn't go like that, because you're going to lose some residents. But these are just general numbers and more to teach you how to work your spreadsheet. Okay, we said we're licensed for 8. I'm sorry. So we should not ever see 9 or 10. All right. And we are going to skip the gross receipts, the cost of goods. We're going to go down the page to our sample bed rate. So let's see, who wants to give me a bed rate? How much are you charging per month per resident?
Go with 4,000.
4,000, perfect. All right, so our bed rate is 4,000. And we can see right now, when we put that bed rate in, right, our gross receipts changed, our stabilization changed, right? So gross receipts stabilization is saying whether we're making any money, right? Or gross receipts is telling us at 4,000 a bed, right, with 2 residents, in November, we're making $8,000, right? Now this is gross. We want to think of gross and net whenever we talk net. Remember, net is what catches it all. So net is after expenses, what are we catching? So this is really pretty, this $8,000 a month, right? But keep in mind, we haven't accounted for any expenses. So for the purpose of today, we're going to focus on the most common expenses, right? Salaries and wages. So what are we thinking for a month 2 residents for salaries and wages.
For two workers, salaries and wages, would we say, I'm just gonna throw out a number, 1,500 apiece?
1,500 for the month?
Yeah, for two, yes, separately, 2 different workers, so
3,000 a month for salaries and wages for 2 workers?
I'm just throwing out a number. I could be way off,
Okay.
but yeah.
Okay. Marie and Marlo, is that fair? All right. So let me back up and tell you. So let's say if we're paying $12 an hour times 24 hours, that's $288 a day. The average number of days in a month is 30.4. So that's $8,755 a month.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. So let's do 8,755. All right. So right now we see our first month open, we're still in the red, right? Because our salaries and wages automatically took us out. Okay. Well, let's go and play. And again, this is just that first month. Everything hasn't really blown up, but how much are we spending for marketing? Marie? Marie? Are you on, Marlo? Anybody else on with us?
I can jump in when we are planning if they're busy.
Okay.
That's with Marlo. Okay, we had a lot of about 500 for marketing, materials and advertising. Now I'm sure that's definitely not what they're doing because I know they have a larger facility, I'd assume.
Certainly, certainly. So what's important and what I like to teach for marketing and advertisement is one of those funny expenses where you're gonna have a month where it's time to print everything again, right? And your marketing number is gonna go way up. But then you're gonna have some months where you're living off of what you already printed, right? You're gonna be paying for website. You may be paying someone to maybe a CRM, something like a MailChimp, a pipeline manager. And so I think $500 a month is fair for our monthly maintenance, even if that big bulk print job or that big marketing campaign is split amongst several months. If you guys give me 1 second, I'm gonna close my office door. I was here by myself.
It also depends on where your census are. Your census is. If you are full, you are maintaining and you are just considering prospects and having a waiting list, you don't have to spend as much. So it fluctuates.
Yep, I definitely agree. Now, one thing, I don't think I'm teaching marketing this cohort. My recommendation is to stay consistent with your marketing. One thing I see a lot of small businesses do is when the money gets low or when you have a nice clientele list, especially in senior living, then we back off of our marketing. I always recommend you go hard on marketing. You stay consistent with marketing, right? You want to stay in the front of the mental file cabinet of the people that refer to you. So even when you're full, it's better to be full, keep showing your house so that you stay. Because at the moment that you say, no, we're not taking anybody, or the moment you go out of that presence, specifically on social media, then you kind of go in the back of their mental file cabinet. You want to stay in the front. But that's a whole nother lesson. That's a whole nother lesson. So we've got marketing.
So what are you, can you say, even if you're full, you cannot accommodate anybody else? So what are you going to say?
Yeah, so even though you're full, I suggest continuing your marketing just the same for several purposes. A, so that you stay important to your referral sources, right? You're staying in the front of their mental space, but also B, when you consider hiring for marketing, if someone else is doing your marketing, then you have to still maintain that marketing salary, whether you're full or not. Now, you might make them do something different, but my recommendation is to stay consistent. And then also when we're considering it from a financial perspective, keep in mind that what we're listing for a month, this should be an average. So this shouldn't go up in December and go all the way down in January, if that makes sense. It should compensate for everything that we're kind of the average over the year. Does that make sense?
Good
Accounting
info,
and
thank you.
you're welcome, of course, Mary. Accounting and legal, so your CPA and your attorney, how much are we paying in retainers? Okay, I typically budget for about 300 there, because I don't pay my attorney a retainer. I pay when I need them. My CPA, I do pay a monthly fee, and it's about 275. So then I account for an additional 25. That again, we're spreading that fee out over the year, so that when we do need that attorney, we've got that money for that retainer or those legal fees that we may have to pay already set up. Right? Keep in mind, a budget is set to predict, right?
So, yeah, so let me make sure, I'm glad you said that. Let me make sure I'm understanding. So you're allocating, even though you don't use your attorney regularly, but you are allocating funds to that fund when time comes to utilize your attorney, correct?
Correct, correct,
Okay.
correct. Now, this is how I do my budget. I'm going to tell you, this is how I do my budget. When I first got started, was I able to completely adhere to it? No. As you grow those line items, and again, having those reserves, that's what we call your reserves, it is a lifesaver. All right, how about property and liability insurance? I'm sure Ashley probably has a guest speaker scheduled, but what kind of insurance
That
are we
is
holding?
crazy right now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Skyrocketing. They increasing it every month, every year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so are we, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
are we renting? Are we purchasing the real estate itself? All of those are things when you see depreciation, that's something that we would kind of be more looking at as an investor. We're not going to go into depreciation, but insurance, whether you're renting or purchasing your real estate, you want to still have some insurance that's protecting your business, protecting you as a renter of the location. So what are we budgeting for? Would you say I am thinking probably about $500-600 would cover insurance for the month? Okay. And that's going to be your general umbrella liability, and then something for the property. Okay, we're going to skip interest because again, that's more of a real estate expense. What are we thinking for utilities? Gas, water, sewer, electricity.
We have a 10-bedroom, and luckily we were able to kind of see what our utilities look like before we have residents in, and they're already high. So we had to adjust our budget. And we budgeted more towards like 12 to 1,500. And that is on the higher side, but we did include like landscaping and things like that in there, as well as being able to allow our residents to, use as much of the utilities as they need, or TVs and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm. So about 12 to 1,500 for utilities on a 10-bedroom. And Marie, remind me, how many bedrooms do you have?
50 rooms, licensed for 68. In the sense that if I have the husband and wife.
Okay. All right. So for the purpose of an 8-bed home, I'm going to say right around 1,000 is probably accurate. And when we think about it, we're in Texas. So I'm going to tell you probably about $700 alone is electricity, especially in the summer months. You're washing clothes all day long. You're watering grass all day long. So let's go ahead. I'll put the electricity. We're going to budget for 1,000. Okay. So now when we pop that 1,000 in, and let's show some grace. I'll say for 2 to 3 people, maybe we are a little more conservative. So we can start at 700. It's November and September. All right. So we see that now with only 3 residents, we're losing, right? As we're adding more expenses, our state of stability is going to start changing. Okay. How about landscaping? Somebody mentioned landscaping, maintenance, and repairs. I'm going to tell you landscaping is a constant, more of a constant. Maintenance and repairs, when we look at those, I recommend not waiting until you need a new AC, not waiting until you get a hole in the wall. So what do we want to budget for monthly for our maintenance? Anybody?
Would 500 or 600 be reasonable?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I would, anybody, 500-600?
Y'all, I know my numbers is off.
Well, you know, it really depends on your landscaping, your yard,
Yeah,
the size of your home, right? And so
yeah.
if you have that, I think that's wonderful. On a more
Mhm.
conservative side, the way that I would look at it is probably about, actually, you know what? You're right. You're looking at about 200 landscaping, right?
Mhm.
Probably about a good, I pay my maintenance guy $375 a month. So let's say 600, and then a little bit further. I think you were right on, girl. We're gonna put 700. Any objections to that?
Is your maintenance guy on site or is he on call for you?
Good question. So my maintenance guy is on call, and then he comes out once a week regardless.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Yep. My maintenance man, we're actually transitioning his role a little bit as we're growing. To date, his job has been to go every week, make sure no screws are loose, no light bulbs are out. And now he also is overseeing the landscaper, the grounds. And so he's transitioning from more of the person that fixes it to the person that gets it fixed.
Exactly. Okay. So he connects to vendors, brings back to you. If there's something up beyond his scope, then you guys sit down and consult on what needs to go and a little bit different.
Absolutely.
Okay, gotcha.
Absolutely. Lesson I
For,
learned
for,
early. I'm sorry.
for me, my maintenance person is on site. The reason why we have multiple areas that he helps with transportation, multitask, and also he helps with the inside building maintenance, which is painting, and other stuff. So
I love that.
it depends.
I love that. So rule of thumb, something that I learned that has stuck with me and I love it. You would be so surprised. Anything over a certain number, and you determine this number and put it down as a policy or procedure. So for my maintenance guys, for anything over $300, I require 3 quotes. All right. So when we get to some of the bigger jobs, like the AC, or we just had to do some foundation work, we require 3 quotes. And so have that number. If it's a job over this, don't just come to me with everybody. Bring me 3 quotes and we'll go through those 3. How about supplies? When we talk supplies, we're talking laundry detergent. We're not talking about, are we talking about? No, I'm sorry. Let me back up. Supplies are your magazines, your games, your activities, your office supplies, any type of supplies around the house. This is not your meals. This is not your cleaning expenses, your household expenses.
I put about 1,000 that because including gas, also activities and petty cash.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I agree. For 50 people, I think that 1,000 is probably fair. I think for the smaller homes, maybe 100, 150. And again, this is your supplies. Petty cash is a good thing to consider. You should not have to spend $150 every month on supplies. Again, order in bulk, right? And so maybe you actually spend 300 in November, but you don't have to buy again until January. That's ideal. Taxes, licenses. So This is going to be, taxes is more again, real estate, but any licenses, any, this would be your city licenses, your fire alarm, license, anything like that can go there. I'm seeing, I think I want to put that somewhere else down here. So let's go security monitoring and fire alarm. I budget for those together. What are we thinking monthly for the combination of your security and your fire system monitoring?
Ain't it about 250? Or
Yep,
from
250 is fair. Yep, so your fire alarm's probably gonna be about right in the 125, and the same thing for your security, so I think 250 is fair. Okay. I'm seeing something has to be, oh, we went back to 3 right here. So as I'm watching, I'm always looking back to see if we're stabilized or we have a shortfall. It also will tell you when you have a mistake, because I know that I ascended all the numbers, so there's no reason we should have stabilized here and then went into shortfall. So that makes me look back over what I put, and right here, I went down in my numbers instead of up. Now we are still stabilizing right around 4 people. And how about meals? How much do we think it costs to feed a person per month in an assisted living facility?
I think Marie can correct me. I think we try to budget like $7 a day.
Yep, that's about right. Because we normally say about 35 a month. So I'm not a mathematician. So 7 times 30.5. Yep, that's $213.50 a month for food. And then what about those household expenses? So that's going to be your detergent, your dishwashing liquid, all those good things, your plug-in air fresheners that I know you're going to have everywhere, your hand sanitizer and hand soap. I would probably go ahead and add another $75 per month, and then we're going to try to make that number pretty at 288. It's 288.50. So let's say 300, right? We'd rather have a little bit more than a lot bit less. And that's for one person, I'm sorry. But right now, so we've got 2 people, and we said, so let's say 215 times 2, 430. And you can actually, what I normally do is I put my cost per resident here and manipulate the spreadsheet so that as this number spread changes, this line changes. So 430 then plus our supplies, let's make that an even 500 for 2. So that's going to be what, 715. And that's going to be what, 930. That's as far as my math's going to get me. 250, 1145. Now let's see if it works. There we go. Oh, we're still stabilized. All right. Education and training. So this is your assisted living manager's course. This is the cost that it takes to onboard a new caregiver. This is your CDP, your certified dementia practitioner. If you're an assisted, if you are a certified memory care unit. This is your, let me make sure. Yep, this is your membership to Torch or TALA or whatever association you choose to be a part of. How much are we budgeting for education and training per month? Let's go ahead and pop 200 in there. Granted, this month, as you're getting open, you're going to pay a lot more, but keep it in mind, turnover in assisted living is high. And then the more residents you have, of course, the more staff. So I think that 200 should average us out well. Travel, automobile. I don't know if we're doing transportation. It's not required, so we're not going to include travel and auto. Home warranty, we're not going to worry about a home warranty. A lot of home warranty companies actually will not even cover a congregate living environment. And then I guess I don't see, let's talk about rent or mortgage. How much are we paying for rent or mortgage? So for, I would say an 8-bed, depending on who, let's say 5,000 to be safe, right? If you're renting, you probably have a very high chance of getting around there. I say if you're renting, secure a, what's it called? My brain's not working. A triple net lease. That includes that includes your insurance, that includes your taxes, and then I would secure it for at least 5 years. What happens a lot of times that I see in these kinds of homes is you rent from somebody and they figure out what you're renting for and what you're doing, and they start thinking you're making a little bit of money, and that rent constantly starts going up. And so be very, very careful when you're renting, unless you have an agreement with the landlord. Even if you own the house, you should be paying rent to your real estate holding company. We won't get into that. So as we see, we got shortfall, 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 shortfall. As we get to the 6 residents, we stabilize. And at 6 residents, our operating expense is about 78.4%. You really want your operating expense. It's really hard, but I'm gonna tell you what the bank's like. If you can keep it under 40%, you look good to a bank. Okay, so as we see, we're still way, way, way up. Going down, this is your profit. This is before you pay taxes on your profit. I'm gonna go up because I realized we didn't adjust those salaries. So we have one person for 12 hours here. So when do we bring in a second person? When are we gonna have 2 caregivers on staff? Let's say for day shift, to be fair. Maybe at 4 residents, anybody? What's your resident to staff ratio? All right, so let's say at 4 residents, we bring that second caregiver in, and let's say we do it for half of the day. So 12 hours, we said $12 an hour. That's $144 a day, which is $4,377.60. We're gonna add that to our $87.55 for a whopping $13,100, and let's round it up to $33. All right, so we've got 2 people here during the day. I would think that once we get to 5 or 6 residents, that now we're gonna have 2 people all day and all night. So then we're gonna multiply this $87.55 times 2, which gives us $17,510. Y'all getting quiet. Y'all don't like these numbers. We've got a problem. Shortfall stabilized. All right. That's more reasonable. So if we look at line 4, I want you guys to go back to all those people that are saying that there is so much wealth and so much easy money in assisted living, especially when it's residential assisted living. As we see, you're gonna live that first year in the red. And what this chart doesn't tell you is a couple of things. First thing is it costs a lot of money to renovate a home to get it ready for an assisted living, right? You're going to be front loading lots of marketing. You're going to be front loading those groceries. There's a lot of expense up front. Now, does it pay off in the long run? It absolutely can. But it's not a get rich quick scheme. There's not an abundance of money in it, especially not with that first 8-bed home. Rule of thumb is you really start seeing money with 3 8-bed homes. Keep in mind, we haven't accounted for managers, assisted living, activities directors, the owner's draw, right? Because you got to get paid. What are you paying yourself as the owner? Right. And so this is just a general umbrella overview of what your numbers look like, how to work this chart. So you all have a copy of it. You're welcome to play with it. Work the numbers as you see fit, and hopefully it gives you an eye opener and a realistic view of what residential assisted living is and is not from a numbers perspective. I don't know, that is bothering me.
Neither are the big, large facilities because, yeah, because I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah, yeah. And these are this DSCR. This is the percentage that banks really, really look at. This template is a little bit tainted, but down here, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say, and I'm not an accountant or CPA, let me just say that, but I want to say the banks want to see this at least a 0.25, and you'll see it's not as easy to get to it. But there are ways to make your numbers work. Lots and lots of budgeting, lots and lots of reserves. And just being realistic. So when you do your budget for your home, being realistic, the reality is you're not going to see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's going to be more like 2, 3, 2, 4, 4, 0, right? So that's what makes a smaller assisted living a little bit more difficult than larger, right? Every time someone leaves, and normally when we talk about death, you'll hear me say a lot of times, when our residents pass away, they normally pass away in sets of 3. And so it really, really changes how you look at your numbers. And when you know better, you can do better. That's my spiel on the budgeting and template. What questions, feedback? Let's talk about it.
I was going to say you need a private investor. That's what banks want to see. You got a fund where somebody came in and said, I believe in you. So
Yep.
take this $30,000 and stash it over there.
Yeah.
That seems to be the draw.
And in my experience, it's easier to attract private investors once you secure the most important private investor. And does anyone know who the most important private investor is?
A husband that steps away from his job and gives his wife the money from his retirement account is
absolutely ourselves. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's yourself. It's you, your family, your friends, the people that are, when I first got into assisted living, I remember running around saying, does anybody want to invest in my assisted living? I even posted it on Facebook. I didn't know. All I knew is that a lot of people got investors. And so it doesn't work like that. I found out. You definitely have to show, you've got to put skin in the game, as they say, in order, but now the money is out there. There are investors, there are lenders, but they definitely want to see your skin in the game and your experience.